record price for fish was set in Japan in 2019 when a sushi tycoon spent $3.2 million. Can you guess which expensive fish was worth the money? One of these pricey specimens recently turned up in West Sussex and was pulled aboard a fishery patrol vessel. This gigantic Atlantic bluefin tuna was spotted by researchers and its body collected to be studied. But it turns out the fish was in perfect condition, leading to an almost $2 million payout to the lucky fish finders. The bluefin isn't even the biggest or most expensive out there. So what exactly makes a bluefin so expensive? And aren't we just making them worth more as we continue to overfish this underwater delicacy? Scientists aboard a patrol vessel, appropriately named Watchful, were surprised to spot a 2-meter or 6.5-foot-long fish floating motionless in Chichester Harbour along the English coast. A bit of heavy lifting later, and a gigantic Atlantic bluefin tuna was on the boat, weighing in at a whopping 180 kilograms or 397 pounds. It's definitely abnormal for such a large fish to turn up motionless in Sussex waters, where bluefin tuna isn't even commonly fished. It's even more rare for the fish, which loves deep waters and, if often hard to spot in the wild, to show up in a harbor. Thankfully, the scientists on board knew what to do to get to the bottom of the fish's mysterious circumstances. They collected tissue and bone samples from the giant specimen, but ended up finding out that the fish was just fine. It had passed away only recently, so it was still fresh, and there didn't seem to be any obvious signs of a struggle. While an injured bluefin would have been an educational find for the crew, finding a seemingly healthy casualty was even better, because the Atlantic bluefin just so happens to be both the largest and most expensive member of its species. Back in 2019, Kiyoshi Kimura, a loaded Japanese sushi tycoon, spent a record-breaking 2.5 million pounds or $3.2 million on a 278 kilogram or 613 pound bluefin at a market in Tokyo, Japan. These markets are known to rake in hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars for great quality Atlantic bluefin tuna. The most popular buyers are, of course, chefs, especially those who specialize in sushi, tuna sticks, or sashimi. Following this trend, the bluefin found in Sussex could go for as much as $2 million at the right Japanese fish market. These English scientists might have just hit the seafood jackpot, but the team at the Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority are more concerned with the bluefin population than high market prices. Tim Dappling, the Chief of Fisheries and Conservation at the IFCA, heads the department that came across the bluefin. In addition to this giant tuna representing an impressive payout, finding one so suddenly also suggests there are more bluefins in Chichester Harbour, or at least living nearby. Dappling says that the tuna discovery could mean the return of the bluefin's natural predators, which suggests a healthier ecosystem. He says that the tuna may have ended up in the harbor after it followed some of its favorite prey, mackerel and bass. The giant fish wandering into the harbor suggests more competition for food, which could mean that Sussex waters are slowly getting more populated by bluefin. This would definitely be a good sign for the species, and for the local fishermen who want to try their hand at catching one of the world's most expensive fish. 180 kilograms might seem like a lot, but this particular bluefin is actually much smaller than the largest ones believed to be out there. Bluefin tuna are estimated to grow up to 680 kilograms or 1,499 pounds. If caught, a fish of this size has the potential to bring in almost $8 million at the right market. So could an even bigger bluefin be waiting in Sussex waters? It's very possible, but before we're able to take advantage of the growing bluefin population, we need to understand what makes them so expensive and why we're the ones making catching these majestic and delicious sea creatures so rare. Bluefin isn't like your everyday plain old canned tuna. For starters, canned tuna is made of albacore, which grows faster and smaller and is fished in abundance. That's why we can get our hands on a can for $2 at our local grocery store. Bluefin, on the other hand, is a delicacy, and you'll never find it in a can or for $2. Atlantic bluefin tuna are known for their rich, fatty taste and unique marbling, as well as how difficult they are to find and buy. Chefs insist that bluefin is more flavorful than any other tuna and most other fish, and worth the extra money, which can be a lot. A local bluefin caught on the East Coast will run anywhere between $20 and $40 a pound. Sure, that's pretty expensive as far as fish goes, but these East Coast tuna have nothing on the bluefin coming straight from Japan. A pound of quality bluefin from Japan can cost more than $200 a pound, and even $400 a pound if it comes from the region of Oma during peak season, which is from August to January. The fish from this particular region and at this time of year come from the Japanese Sea and Pacific Ocean. Their rich diet out at sea makes them the most delicious of the bluefin, and chefs everywhere are willing to spend top price for a chance to serve this rich-tasting fish at their restaurants. Another huge factor that plays into these prices is transportation. A bluefin that goes for $400 a kilo in Japan will cost about $400 per pound once it's been transported all the way to North America. That's about $880, more than double the price per kilogram. This is why only the best U.S. restaurants are willing to import Atlantic bluefin, and why you might not have seen it on the menu before. Because of the transportation and fishing costs, Atlantic bluefin is usually only savored by those with lots of money to spare. The record-breaking tuna caught by sushi tycoon Kiyoshi Kimura ended up being sold in the restaurant for $96 a piece, and it's estimated that he got about 12,000 pieces of sushi from the fish. This is in Japan, so bringing bluefin tuna stateside means that a $500 dining budget is really only enough for a taste of the most expensive fish in the sea. Would you be willing to spend that much for about 5 pieces of luxurious bluefin? Despite how in-demand bluefin is, not every large fish caught sells for millions of dollars. The first bluefin sold at market in Japan each year goes for the highest price, and it usually blows every other sale of the year out of the water. This is because in Japan, they believe that the first thing you do each year sets the tone for the rest of the year. Buying an expensive bluefin is great for the buyer and the seller, because both of them are starting the year off on a very high note. But the record-breaking $3.2 million tuna in 2019, and the previous record holder, a 225 kilogram or 489 pound tuna that sold for $1.9 million in 2013, were able to sell so much because they were the very first bluefins sold in their respective years. We also can't rule out the role status plays in how expensive Atlantic bluefin tuna can be bought or sold for. Like Wagyu beef, the world's elite often try bluefin just because they can. So chefs at the finest restaurants will pay accordingly to serve the best fish to their best clients. So, sure, the people who spend millions on bluefin at Japanese markets are usually trying to manifest a great year, but there's a downside to all this hype and price gouging. If we keep overfishing this tasty fish, there won't be any left to buy or sell in another decade. For decades, bluefin tuna were overfished in the Pacific. Now there are only about 20,000 to 40,000 of the species believed to be left in the wild. The overfishing of the expensive fish is partially to blame for the record-breaking prices in the last few years, but the taste of the fish is what put it on the endangered species list in the first place. It seems like we just can't help ourselves when delicious seafood is at stake. But if we want to keep having access to great bluefin, we need to protect the population we have. In the last few years, more waters have been labeled protected, and conservation efforts have been put into place to decrease the amount of bluefin we fish every year. Some areas are seeing small population increases, while others aren't, which means we definitely have to work harder. It's not just Atlantic bluefin at stake. Pacific and southern bluefin populations have been decreasing as well. As there are less tuna in the sea, their prey becomes overpopulated. Since bluefin tuna are one of the top predators in the food chain, their decline threatens to upset a delicate marine life balance. Bluefins are doing their part to keep away from fishermen. They're smart, like deep water, and have good eyesight, so they can be hard to catch. We've gotten better at catching them though, so the only way we can ensure the future of bluefin is if we take a break while the numbers catch up. $1 million catch might be dreamy, but you know what's priceless? Having bluefin tuna in the wild, keeping our delicate marine ecosystem safe and healthy for future generations. Have you ever tried bluefin tuna? Would you ever consider a fishing trip to try and catch one yourself? Let us know in the comments section down below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to The Richest for more great stuff. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.